Hello and welcome everyone to another Starcraft 2 England cast. Got two really good games coming up for you today. The first one is between coLdrewbie and Slayer, so that's Complexity's coLdrewbie and acslayer. Now the map is going to be Antigua Shipyard, so it's a really interesting map for a ZVZ. I mean, there's a lot of options of what can go on around different places, but I'll go into that in a second. Firstly, in the south position we have acslayer. Now, he is obviously going to be playing as the red Terran, and in the north position we have got Complexity's coLdrewbie, and he will be playing as the blue Terran, so we do have a TvT. And let's just go back to the map a bit. I mean, the interesting thing about Antigua Shipyard really is the third base, because your third base can be taken pretty easily compared to some maps, and that's all due to this quite narrow entrance area, which isn't much harder to defend than the natural. So it really opens up getting those early quick thirds at times when you may not be able to on other maps. It means you can just literally clump up at the front of your base and be pretty safe. Obviously, you do have these rocks here, which can be taken out to give access to the back of the third base. However, with these rocks, you can easily position a supply depot, or even just a single marine up here, which will give vision so you know exactly when they go down and allows you to reposition your army. And also, for TvT in particular, if you put some tanks up here, not only have you covered all of this area, if you spread your tanks to have a few up here, and the rest sort of in this middle position, you've covered most of this area with tank splash zone, and you've also covered all of the rocks with tank splash as well. So you're pretty much safe as long as you position wisely. The other interesting feature of this map is this ledge here, and again in TvT you can fit some tanks in here, and from there just use a dropship to drop some marines into the shielded area, which, unless you've got a supply depot in there, you don't know what's going on, and basically just dart in, do some damage, dart out, dart in, dart out, and use the tanks to cover you from any sort of marine pressure. And the only way those tanks can be taken out is either from marines on the high ground here, or marines from the low ground with a medevac to spot the high ground for them. So either way, that's a very strong position. And last but not least, obviously all the maps have a lot of open area to this side, so if a drop does come in, you can very easily get a drop into here and dart back out. And if you have taken that early third and all of your army is positioned in this sort of vicinity, then moving it all the way back, you have to move all the way around here, past your natural, up to get back, or you have to split your army, and neither one is preferable in a TvT game. So, just going back to the game quickly, you will see that both coLdrewbie and Slayer are taking their natural bases at relatively the same time. What you will see is a key difference is that Slayer is getting both of his gases very early on, compared to coLdrewbie getting no gases but actually getting a second barrack straight away. So just because nothing really will be going on for much time, let's talk about the effect of taking these gases early. Now, a key scouting thing you see a lot of players do is scouting in the main base early on to count how many gas geysers are taken. No gases, such as we've seen from coLdrewbie here, indicates a lot of tier 1 units early on. He's actually going for 4 barracks now, so what you'll see from this is a lot of marines. And also, what getting only minerals allows you to do is get a lot of expansions very quickly. What it restricts you from doing is getting any form of tech early on. Now, 2 gas geysers is basically saying you're going to be teching quickly. You're going to be getting up to, in TvT, for example, siege tanks very quickly. You might be going for cloak banshees very quickly. It's getting that tech. What it restricts you from doing is getting a vast amount of tier 1 units for defense, and likewise getting a lot of expansions up quickly. So as you can see, if you look at the moment, very quickly coLdrewbie is going to be able to amount a lot of marines in order to pressure the front of Slayer. And if he doesn't get this tank out, I assume a tank rather, from this factory with siege mode quickly, he's going to have a hard time defending it with just one bunker. Either way though, both players are going for quite distinctive styles from a very similar initial opening, and I mean, it'll be interesting to see what happens. coLdrewbie now just getting his gases and still just saturating up his main base, his natural base, and a starport actually on its way down now for Slayer. So we'll probably see tanks. We almost definitely will see tanks. We've got the tech lab coming down on the factory, so tank medevac marine, which is very effective. The tanks obviously splash the marines, and the medevacs really do increase the efficiency of the Marine army you have got. Now siege mode straight away going down, so that could come out early, but DrewBie here are mounting an awful lot of Marines, and if he pushes before that siege mode is done, then obviously it will do an awful lot of damage. Now if you take a look up here, DrewBie is now getting his 3rd and 4th gas, while Slayer is still on 2 gases, and really those 3rd and 4th gas are being built to allow for these double upgrades, which he is getting the engineering base in order to deal with. Now taking a look back in the main base, again nothing too spectacular going on. Combat shield is on its way, which really will increase the effectiveness of this push, and I would be surprised if DrewBie tries to engage before he does have combat shield out. I mean, he does have 16 Marines there, so again quite effective, but likewise there's a lot of Marines out here, and medevac, bunker and siege mode is about finished for Slayer, so if he sieges up, obviously there's no way DrewBie will be able to push up there with only 16 Marines. He's actually reinforcing with more Marines, so he is quite committed to this attack, or at least holding the mid-ground, and really that's exactly what he wants. While he has this mid-ground area, he's safe to take a 3rd base, which is what getting that real mineral heavy and late gas build allowed him to do. And very wisely, DrewBie is just going to spread out, get his Marines just to have a look around, see what's going on, may even start working down the rocks. But again, it's just giving him vision down here as well, and we're actually going to see Slayer looks like he's going to move out. He's got 2 medevacs, 2 tanks and quite a few Marines, and that's a good balanced army. Those Marines are going to be very effective, although combat shield has just finished for DrewBie now, so Marines do have a bit of fire in them, and DrewBie's actually going to go for this. The tanks will siege up. Obviously the vision is being given by the Marines and medevacs, so one tank hit goes off, and every tank hit is basically just free damage for Slayer there, and he has regained this mid-ground position, got the tower, and DrewBie's just going to have to walk back. He's got no choice. He can't engage his army with the siege tanks there at the moment. Now 114 DrewBie is about half done. He's also got stim on the way, so he's just going to have to spread out his units, and he's doing a fantastic job of that, just spreading this out, making sure he can defend this push if it does come very easily. Now 3rd tank is actually down for Slayer at the moment. DrewBie positioned a Marine here just to stop the 3rd base, and DrewBie's actually going to push forward. He's got 1 Marauder and he's going to push forward, and if he gets in before the siege tanks do manage to siege, then he could do some damage, but no, the tanks do manage to get sieged up, and again another free hit goes down for Slayer, and all of these free hits do take their toll, because obviously DrewBie doesn't have any medevacs out to heal it up, and a perfectly timed scan for DrewBie there will see the medevacs loading up and will position his army appropriately to defend from it. And I mean, tanks are going to siege, and really DrewBie's pinned back now. He can't safely take his 3rd base, he can't move out at all, and he's got no medevacs or tanks in order to really defend this, and all Slayer needs to do is get good tank positioning, and DrewBie's going to be in a lot of trouble. But there goes the scan, and I mean, DrewBie will move forward, but the tanks are now sieged up, and they're going to do huge damage to those Marines. The Marines do now have 1-1, so they are better upgraded, but the tanks just completely destroying them, and a great pick up there by Slayer, just saving those Marines. The rest of DrewBie's forces are going to have to pull back, and these medevacs are going to drop the Marines straight into the main base, and it's a long run back for DrewBie. These Marines will be able to do some damage as they stand, and I mean, already some SCVs are going to go down. He's trying to focus down that tech lab, and that would have been a big loss because it is researching stim and is nearly finished, and a good pick up there. The tanks are in one of the medevacs and the Marines in the rest, and it'll be interesting what Slayer does here. He's actually going to do exactly what I said about Antigua Shipper, position these tanks on the shelf here just to cover him, and then dart in and out with Marines. Obviously that center tower is going to give DrewBie all the information he needs to know what's happening, just some Marines positioned low, and we are actually going to see a 3rd base now move in for Slayer behind this, so that's really great positioning, great utilization of the fact DrewBie is pinned back, and DrewBie's actually trying to sneak around. He might just go straight for the base, but meanwhile these Marines are working on the tech on the reactor for the starport. More Marines just being dropped down, and the trouble with the Marines going so far back is DrewBie has got the scan off, knows exactly what's there, and all while the Marines are forward, those tanks could be an easy target. Obviously though, waiting for these Vikings to come out now to grant him vision, and taking the mid-ground tower just to see if any reinforcements are coming. And now DrewBie has got medevacs out, he's moving them back. Meanwhile, a flank coming in just from the back now. The tanks are going to clean up the Marines forward layer there, so DrewBie's in a bit of trouble. He's in a lot of pressure, but here we go. Those tanks are going to go down, and that's absolutely great use of the medevacs to give a vision of the high ground. And now those now the tanks are down. Obviously these Marines are just going to get cleaned up pretty quickly. However, DrewBie is being forced to pull the SCVs, but very brilliantly using the medevacs to drop the Marines up onto the high ground to prevent the need for them to run around. So Again, Slayer lost quite a bit there, but Drewbie did come off worse. He is 33 behind now. And obviously, Slayer has managed to get this third base up in the meantime. He's also got quite a large army, got a lot of barracks added on as well. Tech labs, he is still only on one tech lab on the factory, no reactor yet on the starport, and actually getting down these missile turrets. And I like that because it means any drop play that Drewbie does attempt won't be able to go through. I mean, there's just a lot of missile turrets. Any drops which come in here are going to take huge damage, so it could be very, very risky if Drewbie does go for a play like that. But Drewbie is going to just move out, and he has got 2-2 on the way. 1-1 is really only just started for Slayer. I mean, one attack is pretty much halfway, but one armor only a quarter of the way done. 2-2, nearly a third of the way done for Drewbie, and Slayer's actually also getting +1 vehicle attack, and Drewbie's getting +1 air attack, so he can deal with those medevacs very, very efficiently. Meanwhile, Drewbie has just taken this mid-ground position, which is exactly what he wants, using the Vikings to scout things out while taking his third base, and that's really, really good move there from Drewbie. He needs that third base to stay in the game, and 4 reactors coming straight down now on these barracks. If we take a look at Drewbie, he's just going so marine heavy, really, really upgraded marines, but the trouble is, unless he does some miraculous dropping play or likewise gets tanks of his own, he's not going to be able to beat this tank line with just marines. But here we go, we have got a medevac moving in now for a drop. Meanwhile, these marines are looping around. They might try and take out these rocks here, and 2 more command centers on the way for Slayer, just really trying to eat up all that money he's got banked up. And really, it's a good thing to do, but obviously, if that does go down, those rocks are going to go down before these command centers up, and we have got a drop going down in the main base as well. Now this is doing huge damage. All of Slayer's army is completely out of position. His army is there to defend the third, and the mineral line for Slayer is just getting completely demolished. He's going to lose a supply depot as well. Some marines running straight back, and that medevac is extremely low health from the missile turret, so it could get focused down very, very easily. It wasn't there. More SCVs are going to go down. I mean, Slayer just having to pull more and more marines. The medevac is sacrificed, but I mean, pretty much every SCV from the main has been killed now. Drewbie is going to get that cleaned up, and not going to be able to go any further with that drop. I mean, if you look, these 2 command centers now for Slayer are down. The rocks are also down though, so it'll be interesting to see if Slayer morphs one of those into a planetary fortress, which would be very, very effective. Again, that was a huge, huge drop though by Drewbie. If we take a look, 20 SCVs killed. That is a big, big loss, and Drewbie as well getting a command centre here, only a single one, but he has actually started building one over for a 4th base as well. Now, this 4th base hidden out the way could actually make or break the game if he gets good kind of income from it, and Slayer's actually moving back now, and he's moving back just to regroup. Gonna have to try and take this siege position, otherwise all of this base here is kind of in danger, and amazingly, Slayer's actually going for 2 orbital commands. He's very confident with his defensive ability with those tanks there, and the extra orbital commands really will help his income. And 3-3 on the way now for Drewbie's infantry. Meanwhile, 2-2 about a quarter of the way done for Slayer, as well as +2 vehicle attack also on its way, about a quarter of the way done. So both players really doing efficient upgrades, but Drewbie clearly going for that really, really marine heavy play, which without tanks he's going to have such a hard time in order to deal with it, because those tanks, when they siege up right now, are just going to completely melt through that marine line as they are going. I mean, so many marines dying now for Drewbie. He's already about 70 food behind. He's going to build it back up just because he's got so many reactor barracks out. But I mean, those tanks are perfectly sieged. This third base is all but dead now for Drewbie. There's nothing he can do to defend this without taking huge, huge losses from the tanks, pulling the SCVs back, just trying to keep them alive. But already one command center goes down, and there he goes, and there's the GG. I can't blame Drewbie for GGing there. He really lost it when he just got this in. This push came in and he got that good siege position. Now, I did actually miss, I believe, some medevac play down here, because that mineral line doesn't look like it's quite built back up. But all of my attention was just here, and I think that really could have been where Drewbie lost it. If I did spy out the corner of my eye some medevacs coming down, but there's just so many missile turrets here that they would have got taken down pretty damn easily. And with so much of his force out of position, and also his attention out of position, he wouldn't have seen these siege tanks moving in, and once they got the siege up here, it was all but over for Drewbie. Anyway, that was the first game. I'm going to cast the second game as well, and obviously link them together. If you like the videos, please click subscribe. I'm trying something a bit different with my sound. Hopefully it'll be a bit clearer. Feel free to leave me any comments on that, because obviously I want to try and get the sound sorted as good as possible. Anyway, thanks for watching, and I'll cast the second game.